My name is Rich Schmidt. I'm here with Jeff Knapp and Kitri McGuire. It's May 18th, 2018. We're at the Nicholson Library in the conference room. And we'll start by asking you a nice, easy question, which is, why McMinnville? How did you guys end up in McMinnville?
As I am wearing the mic, I will begin. I actually went to school at Linfield College. So I started in 2000 and graduated after fall semester of 2003. So I graduated a semester early with social class of 2004. And during my time in McMinnville, I had a variety of jobs in the community, one of which was as a server at Golden Valley Brewery, where I ended up meeting, unbeknownst to me at the time, a lot of local winemakers that would come in because it was one of the few restaurants in town at the time. That was how I started in McMinnville.
I have a much more convoluted story. I'm from Kansas originally and had made my way through college in food and beverage, so I could make a lot of money waiting tables and not have to work a lot to go to school. And through that process, fell in love with food and beverage. As I got out of college and wanted to know what I was doing with my life, I got really into the idea of wine. And my then not wife, now current wife, and I made a list of things that we would love to have from a community. Being from Kansas, we're kind of limited, as you can imagine. This was pre-internet. Sort of pre-internet, dawn of the internet times. And we visited Oregon, and on this trip, we spent 2 weeks over the winter. I wanted to learn about wine, so we drove out this way, stopped in McMinnville, and fell in love with this weird little quirky town that seems stuck in time. And we're like, wow, this would be an amazing place, but how would we afford to live here? What would we do? And fast forward, we figured it out and fell in love, and we're here.
And so both of you have a background in wine before your current roles. Talk a little bit about how you mentioned coming here specifically for wine. So kind of mention how you got into the wine industry and how you sort of met people and worked your way through it.
Well, I knew that I didn't want to work in food anymore because it was weekends and nights and crazy. As fun as it was just not the lifestyle I wanted as an adult. So I started focusing on wine, started studying wine, moved to here, couldn't figure out how to get in the industry, so I took a job first in the restaurant industry in Portland. Moved to Portland first, managed a restaurant called Blue Hour, which at the time was before the big, huge food boom that Portland is now. It was a very hot pot of creative people that have since gone to do all sorts of cool stuff. Worked there for a few years, 4 years, networked, and then started studying wine through the sommelier training through the ISG, and took a job at Sokol Blosser when my former partner and I, who were managing Blue Hour, Michael Brown, he moved and took a job working for Susan, Sokol Blosser. She was getting ready to retire and hand over her business to her second generation, to Alex Nelson, and he called and said, "Hey, will you come do this?" And I took a big pay cut and said yes, and went and moved here. Started working for Sokol Blosser and worked there for nearly 8 years, starting in 2007 or 8, where I met this lovely lady.
I'm a lovely lady. Yeah. My first interaction with the wine industry was when I was working as a server at the brewery, actually. Winemakers would come in, and I remember one incident when I was about 19 or 20. I was serving a table of very dapper looking people, and a gentleman at the table who had a little white beard ordered a bottle of wine, and I'd never opened a bottle of wine before, but I thought, how hard could it be? And so I was struggling mightily with this bottle at the table, getting so flustered. I was so embarrassed. And the gentleman with the white beard said, "Would you like me to take care of that for you?" And I said, "Yes, please." And so he did. He opened it very deftly and poured for the table and still left me a really nice tip. And I remembered that for a long time. And I told that story to somebody later, and they said, "Oh, that was David Adelstein." And I said, "Oh, who's that guy?" And so there would just be run-ins like that all the time at the brewery. So after college, I moved up to Portland and did a few things for a few years and didn't like what I was doing. I was working in dental financing, which was as exciting as it sounds. It was a thrill a minute. And after a year and a half of that, yeah, right?
It's sad that that's even a job.
It is. Hey, if you need to finance dental work, there's people who can support you in that.
Sorry for them.
And I didn't like it. And so I contacted one of my mentor professors from Linfield, Professor Peter Richardson, and I said, "I don't like my job. I would love to use my English degree. I'd love to be in the outdoors. I don't know where to go with my life. Can you help me?" And he said, "Oh, well, I have a son-in-law in the industry. His name is Alex Sokolblosser, and you should probably talk to him." And so I did. I went on an informational interview with Alex Sokolblosser, and I remember very clearly how embarrassed I was at that meeting. We walked around the vineyard, but I had just come back from a 4-day camping trip at Crater Lake and was so severely sunburnt that my entire face was peeling. And I remember being so embarrassed talking to Alex Sokolblosser, and my face was peeling off. And
Leper interview?
yeah, I was just sloughing my outer self. Anyways, Alex could not have been nicer. He was so pleasant and talked me through what the industry was. And at the time, it was maybe 2005. And shortly after that, he said, "Would you like to come and work in the tasting room one day a week on Saturdays?" And I said yes. Around that same time, I took a full-time position as a marketing assistant with Bishop Creek Cellars that owned and operated a tasting room in downtown Portland right near where I was living called Urban Wine Works. And you could go in there and taste wine and blend your own wine. And I didn't know at the time that job was basically a glorified, server there, but it was great. I got an introduction to the wine industry. They frequently sold bottles of all kinds of small producers, so I got to meet a lot of interesting winemakers that I didn't know would then go on to be very big, important winemakers, and it was a really fun job. About 6 months into that, the Sokolblossers offered me a marketing position full-time. And so I was working as a marketing assistant for them for a long time, and still working in the tasting room one day a week. Finally, that got to be too much, so I transitioned into full-time marketing for them and worked there for almost 8 years. Yeah, first under Susan for a couple years, and then they made the transition to Alex and Allison being co-presidents.
So did you get interviewed by Susan or by Alex and Allison? Do you remember?
I was interviewed by Susan and Allison separately. So Susan gave me an oral interview, and then because I was applying for a marketing position, Allison gave me a separate interview where I had to go into a design program, which today is completely out of date. It was Cork. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
I know Cork.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that dates me a bit. And I had to go in there and create something, and it was like a marketing test, and I must have passed.
I'm surprised when I interviewed Alex and Allison were interviewing me because I think I might have been their first hire for the team outside of Susan being involved. And remember Alex, he's a really big baseball fan, and he's like basically putting all these baseball analogies. And if anybody that knows me, I have sports. I don't even know the terminology for baseball, is it a match or a game? I don't know. So I was like, I'm going to do this job. It's going to be great. And Alex is like, it's just like baseball. How, what position would you play? I was like, oh, shit. I'm going to fail. I really want this job. Don't ask me any sports questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I eked by it and got it, but I was like, this is the worst interview I've ever given.
Quarterbacks in baseball? Is
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'd be the quarterback. Yeah.
They scored some goals.
He
It was
scored some
great.
goals,
Yeah.
all of the home innings. But I was like, okay, this guy is like really team focused. I like that. I can.
Yeah.
I like being part of a team, but just not baseball team. I'll be on your wine team.
Yeah.
So you guys knew each other at Sokol-Blosser then, and how did you get from there to Visit McMinnville, which at the time I don't believe existed in any way.
No,
so
it
tell
did
us
not.
tell us how that all happened.
So I worked there until, 2012, I want to say. Our time overlapped there for about 4 years. I wanted to go back to Portland and do Portland things, and so I took a job at Leatherman Multi-Tools. I liked the idea of working for a company that was a Northwest company, and everything was made in Portland, and I liked that, and it had international reach. So I worked there for about 3.5 or 4 years, and it was crazy lifestyle, traveling all the time and deadlines all over the place, and it wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to have for myself and my young family. And about the same time that I put that out into the universe, like, maybe I don't want to be doing this anymore, about a week later I got a call from Jeff saying, hey, there's this organization that's getting started up down in McMinnville.
Over.
Somewhere directionally.
Wherever you are,
How he
somewhere
is
from
with
there.
sports, I am with directions. So yeah,
We help
feels
each
right.
other. You're really
yeah.
good with sports, though.
I am.
You kill me every year in our basketball bracket. March Madness.
NCAA, 3 years running. Yeah.
She's really good.
We have a bottle of Bullet Rye on it every
I
year.
know you this year. I know
You
whiskey
sure
still.
do. Yeah.
And now we have it on the record.
Yeah.
We do. It's on tape forever.
I'll get it to you.
Anyways, so he was telling me more about this marketing organization that would be working to promote McMinnville and Oregon wine country to potential tourists. And having had a background in McMinnville, in the wine industry, in hospitality, I thought, gosh, that sounds pretty nice. My husband at the time was already working at Linfield and had been for several years, so the idea of relocating to McMinnville and we could both be in one place was highly desirable for me at the time with an infant. So I said, yeah, let's do this.
And I said, sweet.
So how did you know about it?
So, well, I had been in direct sales at Sokol-Blosser, and when I started there, we changed a lot of things. I think the wine industry was growing, people's expectations of what interacting with wine was, having a background in hospitality and restaurants and those types of things. We showed up and realized the model of people just coming and buying a glass of wine or a taste of wine was not going to work for us anymore. The level of volume of people that were coming to visit us was high. Sokol-Blosser had been around for a long time, 40 years but at that point. So it was very quickly apparent that we needed to change that, which was exciting for me. I had the opportunity to kind of approach wine tasting and that experience in a different way. And through several years of doing that and growing the visitors and growing our wine club, we pitched this idea for building this new hospitality concept to the Sokol-Blossers. And Michael and I had worked with a really famous Northwest architect, Brad Cloteville, and we introduced them to the Sokol-Blossers and pitched this idea of experiencing wine in multiple different ways. So it was our job to do that. It kept me really interested and excited and being creative every day, engaging people, telling the Oregon wine story. And so we built this facility over, I was there again like about 8 years. And then we've done this and it's working, what's next? So it was at that point where it's sort of what's next, what are we going to do, that some local people reached out and just said, hey, we have this idea and we think that you would be really good at spearheading this marketing effort for our region. So, and basically you're not just going to be showing people a single brand, you're going to be a voice for everybody, which is kind of how I live anyway. I'm a big enthusiast for food and beverage, and all my closest friends are winemakers or beer makers or artists or musicians, so it sounded like a pretty ideal job. They said, you don't, the money is tax-based funding, it's lodging, so people that come and visit us pay a lodging tax, and those dollars get to fuel marketing. So you get to get the message out, be creative, and tell people about what's going on here. And I said, that sounds awesome. I wasn't looking for a job, but it just kind of fell into place. And the first person I thought of to help execute that was Kitri. And so that's how it happened. I reached out and we had a meeting, and here we are. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're telling the story.
2.5 years in now.
And growing.
So with the goals of the organization, were they given to you, or were you able to kind of craft your own mission statement?
Do you want to talk about how Visit McMinnville and the DMO was founded?
Yeah, so let's talk about how that happened. Yeah, so McMinnville was late to the game in as far as destination marketing goes. So destination marketing organizations are generally tax-funded organizations that fund the promotion of destinations as year-round overnight visitor destinations. So in 2013, a group of local stakeholders from restaurants, lodging, wine, said, you know what, we could really use some help marketing this area for all of our businesses. We have all of these gems, and we all have small marketing budgets. And in the wine industry, if you know anything about wine, the first budget that always gets cut, I remember like you always banging your head and being frustrated, like your budget is constant. You start off the year with like, oh, we got all these plans.
Hopes and
like,
dreams.
Halfway through the year, they're like, forget those dreams. Like, we're not selling enough wine. So an organization like that seemed viable. So these stakeholders got together and petitioned the city to start this organization. And at the time, the city agreed to implement a tax, a transient lodging tax, which is a tax on people that stay for under 30 days in hotels, restaurants, vacation rentals, B&Bs.
Not restaurants.
Not restaurants. Did I say restaurants?
You did.
Well, if you stay longer than 30 days in a restaurant, you have a problem.
You should be paying a tax, yeah.
You should be paying a tax. Hotels. Sorry, you see my priority is food. And so the city said, hey, okay, we'll do this. We'll start a grant program, and we'll issue grants to people that do things to support events or things that would attract tourism. And that quickly became apparent that that wasn't going to be the most efficient use of those dollars. There's only so many nonprofit tourism-focused groups. So that same stakeholder group said, okay, let's go around the state and look at other communities that are doing this really well and successfully, and let's interview them. And they reached out to several different cities and organizations, and they focused in on Visit Bend, who has historically an incredible track record of increasing awareness of their destination and showing results. And they contracted with the gentleman who was running that to kind of give us a framework. Like, here's a framework for this to be successful. The city needs to play this role. You need to have a board that's diverse tourism stakeholders that play this role, and then you need to hire this type of person, these type of people to execute. And at the end of the day, your mission is to get the word out and get them here to spend as much money as possible with local businesses. So it's very clear, like, our goal is to get you to come here and spend money and stay the night, stay as long as possible. So that's summing it up. At least make it sound a lot prettier, and you make it look a lot prettier. So that's what we do. We try to, and it's a pretty easy sell. I mean, once you get people on the ground here, it's a super special place. And word of mouth is equally as impactful, because I think what we have here is experience. I think we have the experience that in this day and age where things are, I know the word authentic is sort of passé, but this genuine, we have a community and people can feel that, and we have a community of creators and beverage makers, and it's a farm, it's a living, seasonal, for 8 years we went to work on a living farm, that it was something different every day of the year. So it keeps I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's a great job to have.
I'd like to build off what you were saying.
Please build.
The yes and.
Yes.
Yeah.
And.
Yes and. There's a trend in tourism marketing right now, and 20 years ago, tourism was you were a tourist. You go to a place and you see the sights and you get out. Yeah, you get your commemorative mug and you get out. And then people wanted to go places and have experiences. So going to a place, and not just eat at the restaurant, but maybe take a cooking class when they're there. And now there's a shift in tourism trends towards what they call transformational tourism. And that's the idea that when you go to a place, you expect something about yourself to be transformed. So you expect to go in and have a series of experiences that change you inherently as a person, hopefully for the better. And I think that that's something that McMinnville offers without even trying. People come to our downtown community where there's no Gap on our main street, there's no Starbucks, it's locally owned businesses that are owned by our friends and neighbors. And people can feel that sense of community. They long for that in their own lives, and they go back home saying, I've been bettered because I came to this place. And that's really exciting thing for us to kind of tap into what that means and use it to get more people on the ground here to support those businesses that are owned by our friends and neighbors. It's really a rewarding job to have.
Amen, sister.
Yes.
Plus, we have this great board that directs us. We have Emily Howard with Thistle, and it was founded with Carmen Pirano from Nix, and Aaron Stevenson leading the charge from Atticus and Third Street Flats, and Maria Stewart,
Ellen Britton
with Britton Vineyards.
That's a good board.
It's just Tyrone's Comfort Inn. I mean, we have a lot of good, forward-thinking, entrepreneurial, rooted people here, keeping us in check, making sure that we have the North Star pointing. Sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it was pretty easy, you said, once you get people here. What are some of the challenges that you faced either getting started, or that you face now getting people to McMinnville, or just challenges in general?
Challenges. Well, we could always use more people. I think we have challenges that are good, some good and some bad. Right now we have a lot of people that come here for about 5 to 6 months of the year, and we're at capacity for hotel rooms. So there's a challenge that we could use more rooms to welcome more people. But we also historically see a really quick downturn for the low and shoulder season, which run sort of November, December to April. Starts and then it peaks down January and starts to climb back up. So our job is to really focus on getting people here, making wine wet winters sexy, and convincing folks that there's a lot to, not convincing, but showing them that there's still things to do. One of our greatest strengths, clearly our greatest strength is we have over 250 wineries within 20 miles of here, which is great. But on the other side, what else? So what is what are the recreation opportunities and shopping and art and culture? So for us, we look to kind of help diversify and empower the growth in those areas, so that we're not just a single. As we all love wine and food, and that is amazing, and I think it will always be the dominant thing here. But we could. Those people that move here for wine and food also want to hop on a bike or maybe jet over to Pacific City and surf in the morning, or trails. What are these? What's the future hold for this area? And I think that's an exciting challenge or opportunity for us. Mm-hmm. But really, we're just scratching the surface. I mean, I think that we'll see a very large growth in our tourism over the next decade. So there's a challenge in keeping what makes McMinnville special as it is. So there's this whole conversation of how do we as a community kind of curate that change and that growth, which is a separate mission from, our mission is let's get as many people here to spend as much money as possible. But how do we also grow responsibly? And I think that's something that I wear as a citizen we talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it helps to have a really supportive board that also has that in mind. Everybody on our board lives here in town, and so, but they also own businesses. So they also wear those dual hats of wanting people in their businesses to spend money, but also want to keep this place livable and family friendly and all of the things that we love about it and what makes it special for people to come visit in the first place.
I think we'll see a lot of, I think change will happen exponentially faster for a few reasons. A lot of the organizations, the wine industry is at a maturity level where there's funding now for things like marketing. Collaboratively, the Willamette Valley Wineries Association has implemented their barrel auction. It's been very successful. So they're not just educating and making aware, but they're marketing as well. And their priority is, number one, to get people here and sell wine to them directly, direct to consumer sales. We have tourism has a lot of money right now relative to the past, I should say. And so there's this, that awareness will be larger than ever because there's dollars being spent saying, come here, these are assets that we have. And before that, it's been really kind of organic or each individual winery's following has found it, or people stumble upon it on the way to the coast, or, the wine industry now is 50 some years old. So as far as the North Willamette Valley goes, and not only is it mature, it has international recognition, but they actually now have money to tell people about it collectively, and not just one-off. So I think the next 5 to 10 years should be a lot of change.
Yeah, it's really exciting on a macro level too, because Oregon as a destination has grown a ton. I just saw numbers the other day that year over year in Q4 at PDX, they saw a 26% higher international traveler rate. So people are coming to Oregon from all over the world, and that's really exciting. Travel Oregon has more money now than they ever have. It's $75 million every 2 years to spend in the biennium. To just say Oregon as many times in as many ways as they can, and we're gonna benefit from that. Something that I feel wine country, Willamette Valley wine country has been missing is a kind of a base camp. Where do people, where do they rally after their day in wine country? And there's been a few B&Bs here, a few, things happening here and there in Newburgh and Dundee, and that's great, but I think travelers want a place where they can walk around, where they can go and get dinner and then catch a show or live music. And McMinnville is really one of the only places that offers that. And so we have a huge opportunity that we are trying to carefully and thoughtfully and proactively grow to tell people, hey, explore the Willamette Valley, explore all of wine country, just come back to McMinnville and use that as your base camp, as your jumping off point to explore the entire valley. And that, I think, that messaging is going to be really critical in the coming years.
So you talk about kind of McMinnville being at kind of that strange spot right now where you talked about being stuck in the past when you were coming out here to visit it, 15, 20 years ago. And now you have the wine boom, but you also have this like charming small town that is, like you say, kind of doesn't have a lot of box stores, doesn't have a lot of Starbucks and things like that. Mm-hmm. So where do you feel your responsibility is there between growing the economic strength and tourism and also keeping the small town charm? It's a tough balance, you've mentioned it, but how do you do it?
Well, so McMinnville's, I don't know if it's unique, but I'll just say we're unique. We have 4 different economic development organizations that focus on different aspects of economic development and growth, and that work in partnership with the city. So yes, our job is to go out and say, look at this beautiful shiny thing, come check it out and be a part of it. And then you have a group, the Downtown Association, that is focused on a vibrant, viable, historically preserved downtown, which is a huge asset. We have a group called the MEDP, or the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. They look for new businesses and attract them and promote the ones that we have. And the Chamber, of course, which does chamber things. We meet regularly and discuss these things. So as we're courting businesses, we're helping find appropriate homes for them, and we're talking about opportunities, and we're talking about our streetscape, and we're working together in conjunction with the cities for planning these things out. We're currently going through a 20-year economic development strategic planning with the city of McMinnville, and we're also going through just an overall strategic planning. So, and those concerns that those concerns of growth are being addressed. So how do we responsibly grow? What are the types of businesses that we need to attract? Where do those belong? Where do people live? How do they interact? Do we need more people living downtown? I would say yes. So need more bike paths. How do we make sure that the trees are downtown, which make it this really wonderful, like living forest, don't all die at the same time? That we replace them. And when we install signage, we don't want it to look like Vegas. So I don't know. Basically, how you do it is you become actively engaged on a civic level, and we talk about it all the time with our friends and family. And I'm in a lot of meetings about it. So,
but that's one of the cool, unique things I think about McMinnville is that there's this sense of collaboration that everyone wants to grow responsibly. And so we just have to talk and say, okay, well, you feel that responsibility is in this direction. I feel that responsibility is in this direction. Let's talk about how we can work together to make that happen. Not recreate the wheel every 5 years, not each be doing our own things in our own silos, but really work together. And I feel like that has a really interesting mirror, a parallel to the way that the wine industry was founded.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that make this area so unique, and it's something palpable that I think people can feel when they come and visit.
I think that tourism, with that, with what you're saying as far as that kind of working together and that collaboration, I think there's a unique opportunity right now when I'm saying that all of these tourism organizations have funding and these other organizations to actually marry the idea of tourism and the wine industry, which kind of clearly they benefit from each other, but I don't think that they've been closely linked in the past. And I think that we'll see that we already have seen that coming closer, and I think over the next couple of years we'll see that strengthen to everyone's benefit. And it's great to have the perspective of that industry and then come to this side to the resources and be like, oh, you guys need to definitely know that, here's some grants, or if you just talk to these guys, we can all benefit. So
you mentioned that sort of Visit Bend was used as kind of a template when you guys are being set up. Is Bend an example of a city that you'd like to see McMinnville look like, or are there parts of it that you're excited about, or is there another city you have in mind as kind of?
I think my opinion is that their framework worked really well for us, but it is not our intention to be Bend. They have a different set of resources and assets and a different vibe about their community, and we just used their framework to base our organizational structure off of, and now we can take it in a way that feels right for our community. Mm-hmm. Bend has had some interesting challenges because they were growing, and have reached this point where now the community is almost revolting because there's too many people in town, too many tourists. The city says, you tourism have too much money, and we're going to take it. And so the city of Bend is now being sued by the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. And so not only did Visit Bend provide a valuable framework for structuring our organization, they then subsequently provided an example of what not to do. And we can learn from that. We can learn from being aware of what our friends and neighbors have done, both good and perhaps poorly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what Bend has done really well is set up clear definitions and boundaries. This is your job. Our job is to market. We don't throw events. We're not a grant organization. We have one laser-like focus. And through that, I think, I want to be like Bend. Their model wouldn't work here outside of how they operate. But I think with the community as well, we are much more, I feel that we're much more sort of engaged in the community while achieving our goal. And this is just a really different thing. So as far as communities that we want to model ourselves off of, I don't know. I mean, there's bits and pieces of different places, but it's hard to take anything and put it here and make it work and push play. I mean, we have a lot of similarities to what's, as far as size and demographic, to Walla Walla. But we're really different. It's easier to get to us, and it's a different climate, and different history. I think with the preserved downtown, I think there's a lot of similarities to Healdsburg in California, but I don't want to be Healdsburg at all. So I think that it's fun for us to get, I say fun, it's a big responsibility to get to help try to direct that, but at the end of the day, it's a free market, right? And if someone buys a building downtown and turns it into Chuck E. Cheese, which we'd hope doesn't happen, it's America. Right. We can do that. So, I don't know. I hope that McMinnville stays. I know it will have its unique character and quality because the people that live and work here care about it so much. It's really intense. It's really, I love them. They're all really close to me now, but the first year of having my job, it was like I was driving. I always say it's like I was carrying around a fragile porcelain mouse, and so afraid to break it. Or like I got the keys to like a really nice Ferrari, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I'm like Cameron's dad's car, and I'm like, I'm gonna don't wreck the car, because people here care deeply. As do I, but they want to make sure you do care, and I appreciate that. So, show up, care.
Show up and care. That's should be everyone's motto for life.
There you go. So, what are some of the more popular places that people have responded to you and say, "I really loved doing this when I was in McMinnville," or things that you sell when you're trying to get people here? What are the most popular spots?
Well, low-hanging fruit, pun intended, is wine tasting. Woo! So that is obviously a very big sell. We have the highest concentration of walkable tasting rooms anywhere in the valley, so that's pretty exciting. Walkability is something that we promote about McMinnville all the time. The high density of fine dining is a really important complement to the wine industry, which is great. But one of our top tourist destinations is Evergreen. And so we work really hard to promote that as a destination and to kind of be very cognizant of the issues that they've been having out there, financial and legal issues, to try and encourage people hey, no, this is a wonderful asset that our community has. You really should go and see it despite legal battles. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And our community is lucky to have them. One thing that we're really working on promoting right now is outdoor recreation. So we are less than an hour from the coast. We're trying to promote the outdoor rec opportunities that exist in the BLM-owned lands in the Nestucca River corridor between here and Pacific City. There's a lot of mountain biking trails and campsites and OHV trails and horseback riding available up there, not to mention all of the outdoor rec opportunities that exist in the coast. So people can go over and do that for a few hours in the morning, hit a few wineries on their way back, come here, hit a few art galleries. So those are breweries, distillery. So those are all things that we're actively working on trying to promote for the area to hit a pretty wide swath of people.
Yeah, there's so much, I don't know, there's a lot to promote. So I think you covered a good deal of it.
Yes.
I think that we also have art that's hidden, I think we're going to be getting people together both with to promote, getting materials together to promote the vast amount of public art that we have and local galleries densely. We have 8 or 9 galleries for a small town of 35,000 people. That's pretty significant. So, and
high-end galleries too. The Lawrence Gallery is just stunning. They get Dali and Picasso, and they get all kinds of works out there. Yeah.
Family stuff.
If you had to recommend something that may be a little bit less known, if someone were from outside McMinnville, never been here, and they were to say, what would I like to do that's a little bit off the beaten path? What would you recommend?
What time of year are we in?
Ooh, yeah.
I think there's some good, we have a really vast amount of foraging in the area, at certain times of the year. If you want to go up and get the chanterelle boom or truffle hunt, it's here, and that's really exciting and literally off the beaten path.
What?
and I think that Nestucca River corridor is a real hidden gem. I mean, I recommend people take that over to Pacific City and play up there. I think it's great. In McMinnville proper, I think our little tea shop is really like hidden. It's underground, and we have wicked
so much tea.
Yeah.
And he blends it himself. Custom blend. It's so cute.
What's the monkey?
Velvet monkey.
Yeah. I think it's a hidden little gem that not a lot of people know about because it's underground, literally. And the density of breweries, I don't think people understand that. I mean, I would say that
density of high quality
breweries, like award-winning breweries. I think people are still surprised at that. Experience-wise, I don't know.
I'm really excited to see where the development goes for the Granary District and Alpine. We're working right now with the city and private business owners to develop a more clear walking path between 3rd Street and the Granary Alpine areas. And I think in 5 years, when I have the guts to watch this video again, I'm gonna look back and say, oh yeah, I remember when that was still a big mystery. But that area, I mean, it's poised for growth, it's poised for build out. There's a lot of really interesting ideas that people have for unique businesses. And that connectivity to 3rd Street, I think, is going to be really, really interesting. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And that will be, I think, something that unexpected that people will be able to discover.
I think right now for me, the most obvious game changer is the Atticus Hotel. So I think that's going to be it's a landmark in time. I think it'll be a big game changer for our community. The level and quality of that hotel, the custom nature by which it was built, and represents local on such a hyper focused level, and then the people that it'll attract, the demographics, and I think we're going to see a big wave from that. And like you said, if we look back in 5 years at this, I think even in the future, we'll look back and that'll be a hallmark for not just our area, but for the industry, because it really is here because of the wine industry and the people that the wine industry draws. In the 90s or late 80s, it was Hotel Oregon, Downtown was dead, that showed up. I mean, people, and before that, I don't know. There's these Harvest Fresh moving in was Nick's in the 70s. The Atticus will be a place in time where we can look back and be like, okay, that speaks to a big shift. So I'm very excited about that asset.
What's been the reception to Visit McMinnville from business owners, from people around town, from friends and family?
Overall positive. Surprisingly, I was ready for people to be. I mean, I think there's
some skepticism at first, but we've had 2.5 years now, I think, to earn people's trust that we're not just here to, run people down with tourists that are standing there snapping pictures or whatever, but that we really care about the community and want to promote our friends and neighbors' businesses and get people to thoughtfully come and spend money here. I think we've had 2.5 years to earn people's trust, and overall people are really positive about what we bring. And, there's a lot of pride in McMinnville from the people who live here, and to see, a billboard that we've created or something, or see an ad that we've created show up in Sunset Magazine promoting our little town and showing how amazing it is, or to get a write-up in Vogue. We had a write-up in Vogue this year talking about how this was the perfect girls' weekend getaway. Yeah, and it out-trended a lot of really popular world things that were happening at the time. And so I think there's a lot of pride that people in our community have. And all we're doing is taking what's awesome about this town and just telling people about it. And we're not trying to, pull the wool over people's eyes. We're saying this is an amazing place and you should come here, and here's all the reasons why. So I think people have seen those things. It has stoked their pride in our community, and they feel supportive of what we do.
I think the only hiccups that we have seen are when people see the budget numbers that we have, and they're like, why are you spending this much money when we have so many needs in these other places. And for us, we completely understand those things, but Oregon law reserves, these dollars, these tax dollars by law have to be spent for this purpose. So for us, it's we understand that, we could use better roads in some areas, or, and there's all of these different issues that the community is facing. However, it's proven that the economic impact of visitor spending is significant on communities and creates jobs. So that Oregon has reserved those by law, those dollars to be spent that way. So I think that's our only hurdle that we generally butt up against is just like, we have to do this by law. So,
well, not only that, but educating them that there's data to support that this is a really good investment for the businesses in our community. And as businesses thrive, they create jobs. And as the workforce thrives, our community thrives with art and culture and makes us a better place to live. And there's data to support all of that. So there's a lot of internal marketing, I call it, to our community, which is really just education about why this is a good thing and how ultimately it's going to benefit them and their business. And once they hear those numbers and see some of the work that they do, they generally have a mind shift, which is great.
And those visitors become, I was a visitor. I'm here because of tourism. I came and visited, and now I tell other people to do the same. So, there's an ancillary effect of loving a place, falling in love with it, moving there, and then now you've got,
another engaged
citizen who's, I made a McMinnvillian. I have a baby here, and she's going to be a citizen and grow up, and just the whole circle of McMinnville life continues.
So let's talk a bit more specifically about the wine industry. Have you been able to see, have you been able to measure a measurable impact on wine tourism since you guys have started?
We measure interest. So our measurables are twofold. How we measure our success currently. So we measure our success by more people coming and staying in hotels more frequently and spending more dollars to do so. Results in increased tax. And then more people that through our marketing efforts that we drive to our website, and then from our website to tourism stakeholders. So we can see the people that are interested in and then deciding to book, or then deciding to take a further look down the rabbit hole into other wineries. Yes, those numbers are all increasing. And if we compare that data to what both Yamhill County data through the Dean Runyon report, visitor spending is going up, wine visits are going up, and if we look and compare that with Oregon Wine Board data, we can see that those things are all going up.
Yeah, I was in a presentation just last week where somebody was presenting out-of-date economic impact data from the Full Glass research that says the economic impact of wineries in the state of Oregon. And they said, Full Glass research in 2016 said that wineries had a $3.4 billion statewide impact. And I was like, that's out of date. It's now $5.6 billion, I think,
in
is
2
what.
years, yeah.
And I'm not saying that's because of us, but I'm not saying that. But I think, of huge growth.
That's because of Kitri.
Yeah, absolutely.
$2 billion.
I guess you're totally underpaid.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Thanks.
Talk to my boss about that. Yeah. But I think there's a confluence of things that are happening right now between the Willamette Valley Wineries Association now being better funded and having more money, Travel Oregon being better funded and having more money, our existence. There's a lot of things that are happening right now that are all combining. And the direct sales numbers from that Full Glass data that I believe was presented at the Oregon Wine Board Symposium this year shows that direct spending is up, and that comes from tourism.
And you can see it in the investment with all of the properties. Look at
the event centers
project. Sokol Bloss are investing multiple millions of dollars multiple years ago, and all of these new crazy state-of-the-art.
If they were depending on distribution, they wouldn't have built those.
Yeah. So I think there's a trend the market is really quite saturated with a lot of quality wine right now, and it's a priority to get people in your door and selling it. So they wouldn't be building those things if there weren't demand for it, and we like to feel that we are helping that demand.
Sure. So both of you have roughly a decade or a bit more of experience since you started working in wine to now. In addition to just pure size, what are the other changes you've noticed in the industry since like the early 2000s to now?
Increase of investment from out-of-state development.
Dollars for marketing. There's actually people marketing, which is,
What?
And when we started, there wasn't social media, so
I remember
were in social media.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was working at Sokol-Blosser when social media became a thing. And I remember talking with the Sokol-Blossers and them suggesting, just casually that we get a Facebook page. And I was like, oh, Facebook, flash in the pan. So that type of technology has increased what wineries can do and what tourism can do to help support wineries, I think.
I see the direct impact on the density of food that has, the industry has brought. When I showed up and moved to McMinnville a decade ago, there's a lot of other people at the same time. There's sort of this transition of, there always is, I guess, but whatever my crew of people, this community that was here at the time, quickly found each other, and everyone had kids at the same time, and everybody. But food, those restaurants and those things that support the lifestyle of the industry that's working here is, growing, has grown a lot. Where we have access to clothing and diverse amount of food and beverage that we can get, and I think what I feel really is the community has changed, has strengthened, and there just seems to be more and more people kind of getting caught in the snowball of it. And with that, I've also seen an increase in European, not just European, but harvest crews, the harvest folks that come for just harvest.
A lot of Kiwis.
There's a lot of Kiwis, Italian. So there's a lot of international, I feel like international presence, especially during harvest time. You're meeting these folks from all over the world. And it's cool. Like for a period of time, you have this big international kind of pop, and then they leave. And then sometimes they come back and get jobs. And so, I don't know, it just breeds this culture in general, and I like it. Also, there's a lot more money. There's a lot of people who weren't here before that have sort of boutique, I don't really like that word, it's more like sort of, they have brands that pop up with high scores out of nowhere, like, how did you do this? And it's just like some Hollywood production team came in and made a brand, and you're like, is this a person? Where is this? So there's a lot of that I'm trying to figure out, but...
There are a lot of trends that seem to weave in and out, that not being in the wine industry, kind of being on the periphery of support for the wine industry, we're able to see from a little bit of a distance. It's really fun. Gosh, I don't even know if I could put a time frame on it, 5-6 years ago, maybe more. These collaborative workspaces for young winemakers that can't afford an estate started popping up. So you have Day Wines and Carlton Winemaker Studio, and even here in McMinnville, Goodfellow, they have a lot of boutique brands that come in and out of there. So that started to become a thing, and now the big trend is canned wines, and so it's really fun to see those trends and to be able to support them from marketing and bringing people in to experience something new and different. It's really
sparkling wines, 2011.
Oh yeah, boom!
Was so cold and underripe, and all of us were like, we're all going to start sparkling wine labels, and
they did.
I didn't, but yeah, everybody did. So everyone's got sparkling, and it's good, and we can grow it. And it's high acid, and it's awesome. We would take a colleague and I took the Evolution White and put it in a soda stream and bubbled it up. Like, this is awesome. And they were like, why don't we start making that? And they did.
Yeah. Not in a soda stream.
Not in a soda stream. I was just thinking, like, hey, what would this taste like? But now there's super high quality sparkling wine, and I think that's going to continue to grow. And I think that we have the proper clones planted, and I think in certain areas that we can get really great early ripening, interesting, delicious wine. I think I'm really excited about that change in the industry. Diversification. I love Pinot Noir. It will always be amazing, but what are all of the other crazy things that we can do really well? And I think sparkling and Chardonnay are right there.
Yeah.
What do you see happening to the wine industry in the next, say, 10 or 15, 20 years, either locally or at a state level?
Holograms.
Hoverboards. Yeah.
You know, the 20-year, but on that kind of 20-year look, I'm really interested in how autonomous vehicles and autonomous machineries and robotics come into play in the wine industry. I don't know what it means, but I know it's going to be a huge impact. And I'm really geeky about, I really want to know what that's about. If we look at the industry how it is now, I don't see it stopping growth. I think we may be shifting with varietals as climate change happens a bit. I think our wine styles will be changing, and I don't know how that will affect consumer palate and profitability, but I just see nothing but an upward growth for the wine industry here. I think we'll see big impacts on communities, the rural communities, and the growth in places like Amity and Sheridan and Willamine and Carlton. I think we'll see, all of those areas fleshing out. I don't know. More food. I mean, that's the biggest excitement. The more wine comes, equals more really great food options. So that's going to have me sticking around because clearly I like to eat.
I have, I'm going to call it a more...
a better idea?
No, I want to say realist view. I feel like in the next 20 years, climate change is going to affect the, not just vineyard, but farming in general quite significantly in the valley. And that some of these producers are going to be able to roll with it and some of them won't. And so I feel like over the next maybe 10 years, there's going to continue to be growth. Things are going to start to change. The people who can adapt will fall out of the industry, and the people who can adapt will stay in, and maybe there'll be some new exciting things we can't even imagine. But I think that it's my personal opinion that climate change is going to affect farming as we know it in Oregon pretty significantly over the next 20 years.
The one thing that we have going for us is that we have an abundance of water.
Yes.
And I think that as water becomes an issue, we will still remain water rich. So with that as an asset, I think that there's a positive, I think that we can adapt. I think that what I hope to see, and what I think the industry will drive, is transportation. So a growth in transportation of moving product to market quicker and moving people in and out of the valley quicker. So I think that'll come through first and foremost autonomous vehicles. But I mean, other types of rail or, assets of our
flying
airport,
cars,
our airport,
air trams.
Yeah, who knows?
Hoverboards.
Hoverboards. Or a virtual tasting where you just close.
You
your
just think about it. Yeah.
That one wasn't good. Yeah, I think transportation is a hurdle that we have now, and I think that the industry will have enough of a pull to help lobby and make sure that is addressed.
It's really fun to see because, like we mentioned earlier in this interview, when I started in the wine industry, social media didn't exist. And now people don't have websites, they just have Facebook pages, and that's their only form of marketing. And it's really going to be interesting to see what is that thing that affects how we tell our story in the future. We can't even imagine it now, which is really kind of fun. But again, when we watch this, 5 to 10 years.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
He was right. You could just taste with your eyes closed.
And she was right about the hoverboards. Amazing.
You mentioned you mentioned the outside money coming into the industry, outside either California money, French money. Do you see an impact in your jobs as you're trying to sell sort of the authentic Oregon wine experience? If the wineries...
Not yet. I think that those people that are investing, I look at it as a benefit. It's raising everybody up and raising quality awareness and raising awareness of what's going on here. And the people that are doing that so far have been playing really well. I mean, Jackson family's got Eugenia Keegan as this, who better to be a spokesman for what Oregon wine means or is. And they show up and they're charitable and they give hours out at Miller Woods and, trail maintenance, and they donate to causes. And so I think that Oregon's this place where, and one of the reasons why I moved here is that people care about it, and they protect it, and that to play here, there's certain kind of cultural rules that you play by. And yeah, you could be successful not playing. There are a couple of examples I can think of that are extremely successful that don't necessarily play in a collaborative manner. But I think one of the things that makes it special is that when you move here, you want to. I think at the end, like, humanity inherently is better when you're collaborative and you participate in something. And I think we have that in spades. So I would hope that it carries on. But show up.
Care.
I'm glad we come up with you guys' new motto.
Yeah.
It's just good.
You're welcome.
I don't know. I just don't like, there's a lot of fear, right? Change brings fear, and I just hate being dominated by, I want to think about living in possibility and not fear. And I think that, French, they're coming, they're going to, they already came. They built Domaine Drouin and,
Yeah, and we're better for it.
It's amazing. And, Jackson family, they own so much, they own the most acreage in the state now. Great. They seem to be pretty cool. So, I don't know. I'm more of a, let's welcome everybody in and let them act how they are, and hopefully they'll be nice. Because it's a great, great place to be. And, cut that out. No.
And we've talked a little bit about, throughout the interview, about sort of the changes you've seen, but kind of changes in McMinnville. What is different about McMinnville than when you first got here, and where do you see it going in the next decade or 20 years?
We got Thistle.
Yeah. Major win. Yeah.
When I first moved, that was a big deal, though. A year after I moved here.
When I was here in college, that was still Kame. Yeah, Japanese restaurant.
Also Kame. I miss Kame.
Yeah, Kame was great.
We had Patrick Bruce. He's the best cocktail guy in the world.
Yeah, it's true. When I lived here in 2000, half the storefronts on 3rd Street were empty. No students that I knew ever came down to 3rd Street to do anything besides go to Cornerstone Coffee, because there was nothing to do. That's so different now. It's very rare to have an empty storefront on 3rd Street. It's a vibrant place where things happen. The farmer's market, which didn't exist when I came to school here in 2000. And the music that happens on Thursday nights right in downtown. It was just, it's a vibrant place that people want to hang out, where you see people and it's like cheers, and everybody knows your name. And that was not the case when I was here just 18 years ago for school. So it's been fun to see that development happen.
Yeah, I think that there's, countless new businesses that are successful. I also, right now there's a lot of new leadership, which I think is sort of exciting, fertile time. McMinnville historically had a very long run with mayor, city manager, parks director, city attorney, city planner, which is great for a community to have that stability. And those folks held those offices for 25 years. More maybe. So we have new blood in every major position at the city. So right now it's a time of sort of strategic planning, and there's a lot of sky's the limit kind of thinking. When you're in a job for that long, you're kind of no, I'm not even going to go down that road.
Well, many of those leaders have come in from other communities too. Some of them are born and raised in McMinnville, but a lot of them come in with great ideas
fresh eyes
how things can be.
And the culture of the community has changed too, where the community might be a little bit more open to let's consider. Most recently the ordinance passed that we can sell alcohol at events in parks, so we can move our great summer concerts that take place in sweltering, asphalt. We can put them under the trees, and with a permit you can see live music. So I think there's priorities on cycling and how businesses are zoned, and there's a lot of exciting stuff happening right now that we'll see again, when we look back at this video, all of those things that we've accomplished. So that leadership is exciting, new leadership.
Do you have a vision of what McMinnville looks like in, say, 2030 or 2035?
Again, lots of restaurants that are really good. I have this, my personal dream is that I want the Mac Theater back so bad. So however that's going to happen, I want the Mac Theater back. It's the heart of town, and I'd love to see that with like live national music acts coming through and booking hotels in the midweek in January. But I think big picture, I think that, you know, we have an even larger downtown core of locally owned businesses, that we have transportation infrastructure that supports multimodal transportation that's more impactful, and then people can get around easier by foot or by bike and access those things. That we have a diversity in makers. You know, what is being produced is not a monoculture of just wine, but other things that go with that. So the whole cultural ecosphere.
I have
Autonomous
dreams.
vehicles.
Yeah, hoverboards.
Hoverboards.
Bringing it back, guys. My dream is that 3rd Street becomes a pedestrian-only street, like Pearl Street in Boulder, and that our downtown core is a vibrant mix of businesses and affordable housing. So I see that as a potential future for our town that makes me really excited.
System of great trails.
Yeah. There's nothing but possibility, honestly. I mean, this community has people who show up and care. And with a group of like-minded citizens like that, anything is possible. And that's really an exciting place to be. And it's an exciting time for me personally to feel like I am having a hand in creating whatever that potential amazing future is. And I think as long as those people who show up and care do so out of possibility and not fear, it's going to be an amazing place in McMinnville. And a lot of that is going to be thanks and due to the wine industry. And a lot of it is going to be thanks and due to things that we can't even imagine yet. And that's really cool.
What about the next decade for your organization? What do you hope to see out of Visit McMinnville?
Well, we will grow, both staff-wise. You're looking at the two founders here. So, you know, as we grow, we're focused on increasing our marketing, clearly, but a large untapped resource for us is group sales. So bringing on a sales team that would attract conferences, sporting events, types of things like that to our community. That running alongside of having some assets to fill that are larger spaces. So if we could have a conference center or a music venue or a sports complex that we could use to sell and bring more folks. So we'll be growing those channels, especially focused on the winter months, diversifying year-round things to do, and growing our team. So, I mean, I could see us bringing a lot of that in-house. We currently contract a lot of PR, design, and basically becoming a fully housed creative agency with our own team in 10 years, I think is a easy goal to achieve.
I can see that.
And then on top of that, our effect is that, hey, everyone's money is raining from the sky. People are bathing in money.
Scrooge McDuck style. Yeah.
All children are fed.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Hopefully, also, I think that I think the wine industry brings people, a certain type of person to your community that has certain interests and needs, and I think those things generally are good. You know, for me, my values: art, culture, food, wine, community. You know, forward thinking. Wine is like that fire. You know, it's like the campfire. Everyone likes to get around it and share stories, and it's a magnet. And I think that magnet's effect will be greater, and it'll just ripple through the community as far as, better access to better things. Hopefully helping flowing into education in the community and up-leveling those things indirectly. I have a really big vision of utopia.
As far as education goes, I think that's going to be a game changer with Linfield and the wine industry with the recent Evanstad investment. I think that's going to change the way McMinnville is seen as a hub of not just this is where wineries are and supporting industries, but also this is where people go to learn about wine and the wine business. And so it's, I think that's going to have some pretty major effects that we can't even see. Schmidt has a hospitality and tourism program that they've started up in the past few years, and that's going to churn out more people for our industry and for the wine industry as well. So yeah, it's exciting.
It is. They're both great bookends serving that community.
Talk a little bit about Linfield since you brought it up. What is Linfield's role to you as Visit McMinnville? Do you sell the art, culture, music that Linfield brings?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Not only that, but I mean, arts and culture for sure, but also that we have people coming into town now to see sporting events and be a part of like this wine center that's going to be coming open. It's really exciting. I mean, attracting positions like Dr. Greg Jones to Linfield.
Score.
Major score. That's really exciting. That affects us. That affects the world's perception of McMinnville as a hub for wine. It's great. And Linfield is right at the heart of all of that. Yeah. I think if there's one thing that Dr. Helly has done, and he's retiring now, but is that he has set up Linfield for success to support a local industry. And as we see investment in small private liberal arts colleges go down, having a niche like that is going to be so important for Linfield and for our community and for this industry that is growing. It's really great.
Yes, the industry itself needs educated people on all levels, so
agreed.
It's a win. Linfield's a huge asset to the community and to tourism and to education. It's a lot of buckets that we're and just that, again, the culture of having a higher education, an institute for higher education in your community is, as a citizen, is a big impact. You know, when you have those types of people that you're interacting with, having conversations with over beers at the Bitter Monk, or you're at the grocery store, or they have certain. It goes out into all different branches, and it's a win. It's one of our largest assets as a community. I
can't tell you how many random conversations I've had at Community Plate or Bitter Monk where I sit down and I start talking to somebody about some really interesting subject. They open my eyes, and lo and behold, they're a Linfield professor. So it's great. We need more people like that.
Just waiting around to give ideas.
That's right.
Isn't that what professors do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strategically placed.
Yeah. Deploy. Yeah.
Another idea.
Well, this is great. That's all the questions I had for you guys. Is there anything I should have asked? Anything else you'd like to mention at the end here?
I like your shirt.
Thank you. One of my favorites.
Yeah, strong shirt. I don't have anything.
Show up and care.
Show up and care.
Let's keep doing that.
And it's also documented that Kitri and I are friendly. So hopefully in the future, when we look at this, and we're still friendly to each other.
Yeah, we're not like wizened, gnarly old. Oh, yeah.
Tape down the middle of the office.
Yeah, exactly. He's on my side.
That's the future. We hire a referee. Office ref.
Your tax dollars hard at work.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We get it done. We just don't get it done well together.
Well, thank you both so much. This is awesome.
Thank you for being asked.
And thank you for technical support.